Hello, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, hi, I'm Carol, and in this channel we talk mainly about books. In today's video we are going to be doing some book stuff. We have a book haul to do, we have some book shopping to make, and we have a reading journal we need to update, and some other little bits and bobs relating to books. So I thought I should take you all along on the journey. So the first thing I'm going to do in this vlog will be a book haul, because I got some books which might not be the smartest decision considering the size of my physical TBR, but in my defense, most of them are sequels. So let's start by doing the book haul. I'm going to get the books and then I'm going to come here. I'm going to sit back and show you the books. Hi. So here we have some books that I got recently, and these are only that are falling. They are falling. So too many books to try to pick up at once. So we have some books, as you can tell, to talk about that I got recently, and just let's start. But I need to move it away from my face. Away from my face. If I keep it here, you won't be able to see me. So let's start talking about the books. I think I'm going to start by the two hardcovers, the two that are currently in front of me. Oh, I won one of the books. That's fine. Let's start book haul by the two books that are actually in front of me, because they're two hardcovers and two non-fiction. The two non-fiction of this book haul. The first one is TBR Tracker, A Trip into the Mirror World by Naomi Klein. And then I have The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. Amanda Montell is the same author that wrote Codish. I'm really curious about this book and I've been wanting to read it for quite some time, but I kind of want to read that book in English because it's a book about languages. It was written in English, and this sort of books I would rather read in the original language if possible. But also, if you guess it, that it is always sold out or super expensive in English, you're right. And then I saw The Age of Magical Thinking by the same author. It's another book I was curious about, even though I haven't seen the best of ratings, but I have been curious about by the same author. Did I say Magical Thinking? No. The name of this book is The Age of Magical Overthinking. And in this book, apparently, it's a collection of essays by the author where she talks about the magical thinking the magical thinking stuff that people keep doing nowadays, that is popular nowadays, like manifesting or things like that. And I used to listen to a podcast by the author, which I think it's called It Sounds Like a Code, I think, or Sounds Like a Code, something like that. I don't remember. I don't have a specific reason why I kind of stopped listening to it, except that I just one day did, but there was a podcast by the author of the book that was really interesting, and I want to continue to go back to listening to it. And then let's go back to series of books, other books. I think I'm going to start by the books that I got in the United States, because I spent a few weeks in the United States at the beginning of the year and ended up getting two books that there. So let's talk about them. They're all sequels. The first one I have is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is the third book, I think it's the third and final book in the Maple Hill series, which is the series that has Icebreaker, and in this book we follow Henry and Hailey. I'm not 100% sure what the plot of this book is about, except that I think it's back to being a hockey romance, it's friends to lovers, fake dating or dating coach, something like that. And I read Icebreaker a few years ago, and then I read Wildfire. Both, they're not the best books ever, but they are super entertaining in my opinion, and I ended up not picking up Daydream because I didn't hear the best of reviews for this book. Also, again, super expensive, and the days went by, a year went by, and I never picked it up, and then I saw it on sale in the United States, and then I decided to pick it up because I do want to read it. I'm curious. It's not a high priority book, but I still want to read Daydream and finish the series. And then two other books that are from a series that I want to finish and that I really loved, and I think it's a great book. The first book of the series that I have already read is The Golden Sun or Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the second book. It is better. I felt like I was a little bit out of frame, but this is The Golden Sun or The Golden Sun. Why do I say what is happening with my head today? This is Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy, and I loved Red Rising, so I want to continue reading. I want to see what happens in Golden Sun, especially after how that book ended. And then I have the third book in the original trilogy, which is Morning Star. The corner of the book is kind of not the greatest, but it's because I put it in a luggage. It was on a luggage. If you throw it on a bag or a luggage, it's bound to kind of get ruined. So let's move this book here, and then let's do the other books. So I think I'm going to start by the sequels, because I have more sequels here, and I think it might be a good idea to talk about it. So this one I already showed you. Last year on my last book haul, or my only, I think it might be my only book haul of last year, I show you Save You, Maxon Hall's Save You by Mona Castan, which is a book that inspired the Maxon Hall series, which is a series that ended up being a guilty pleasure for me last year. And then I ended up getting the first and the third book in the series, which is Maxon Hall Save Me, Maxon Hall Save Us. I always mistake the names of these books. I keep changing. If there wasn't the number on the spine of the covers, I would never know what is the order you need to read these books. But basically, as I said, Maxon Hall was a guilty pleasure series last year. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, because it's a series that follows teenagers, and I'm very much not a teenager anymore. But it's a guilty pleasure. I still haven't watched the second season because I want to read the series first, and then I'm going to watch the second season of the TV show. I want to see how it is on the books, how the story is on the books. Then the other two sequels I have here, I have Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maher, which is the second book in the Assistant to the Villain series. Also, I read the first book, Assistant to the Villain, at the end of last year, and I loved that book. It was just such a funny nonsense book, which is actually kind of the type of book I enjoy, so I want to read Apprentice to the Villain, so I could have this sequel. And then I got, every time I say this name, I want to say Allied to the Villain, but it is not Allied to the Villain, it's Accomplice to the Villain, the name of the book, by Hannah Nicole Maher, which is the third book in the Assistant to the Villain series. I want to pick this up soon. And then I have Consider Me by Pekka Mack. This is actually a book I already read. It's the first book in the Playing for Keeps series. I originally read it, I think 2 years? No, I think it was 3 years ago that I read this book. And I remember at the time I really liked it. There are definitely flaws in it, but it is one of those books that just does something to my brain. My brain really enjoys it. And I read it on Kindle Unlimited. I read it on KU. I didn't own a copy of the book or even a Kindle copy. I didn't have access to it, only through Kindle Unlimited. And recently I just think it's a good idea to have physical copies of books that I actually enjoy and that I like to read one day, that I like to read because they do something to my brain, because it's also kind of like a mental health book. When you find these books that your brain just does a happy dance whenever you read them. But the thing about Consider Me is that I read it 3 years ago, and I remember really enjoying Consider Me and Play With Me, which is the first and the second book in the Playing for Keeps series. And then I hated Unrivaled Me, which is the third book in the series. It's one of the worst books I have ever read. I hate that book with a passion, and I need to stop talking about it now because I could go on a rant about that book. And then later I read Fall With Me, which is the fourth book in the series, and it was very meh for me. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. It was very middle of the road. And I still haven't read Breath With Me? No. Still haven't read With Me, which is the fifth and final book in this series. I want to read that one soon, but not gonna lie, kind of putting it off because I didn't love the last two books in the series, but also when I go on Goodreads, that book is so highly rated that I'm curious. I'm also curious about why are people loving that book so much, but also apprehensive because I didn't love the other two books in the series. Basically, I got to Consider Me. I'm curious whether or not this book will hold up, if I will still enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first time I read it, but now I have a physical copy of a book that has sunk into my brain, and I got it because I saw it on sale. I think it was like, Consider Me is usually very expensive because it's so popular, it tends to be very expensive for some reason, but I saw it I think for 60%, I think, or 80% of a sale, 80% off sale. So I decided to pick it up because it's nice to have books that just sunk into your brain on your bookshelf. And then moving on to other books, it's a very different vibe. We have The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. I have another book by Simone de Beauvoir on my TBR, which is The Second Sex. It has been on my TBR for 6 years now, but I thought it might be a good idea to read something by the author that isn't over 1,000 pages long. And I believe this is a collection of 4 essays, right? Is this it? I think it's a collection of essays, I think, following different women and something like that. I think their lives will connect some way through the essays. So we have The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. And then the last book on my TBR, the last book on this book haul is one from an author that I'm not sure if I love it, if I hate it, if it's a hit or miss kind of author for me. But I have David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, which is so chunky. I wasn't expecting this book to be so chunky. Also, the font is tiny, which I also wasn't expecting. I usually really enjoy the Penguin classics because I just love their pages and the font size, but this one, the font is little and it's a chunky book. And also, every time I get one of the UK, US version of the Penguin classics, I realized that they are great. They are definitely one of my favorite versions of classics, just because of the floppiness, the font, the paper, the way the book is constructed. I really enjoy. But the Brazilian version of a Penguin classic, it's the superior version. But basically, going back, we have David Copperfield, which is apparently one of Charles Dickens' masterpieces. In the past, I read The Bleak House by the author, and I didn't like that one. I thought it was extremely boring. And then I read A Christmas Carol, I think that's the name, right? A Christmas Carol, which is the short story, the Christmas short story, and I like that one. So I'm giving Charles Dickens another try, and I already have other books by the author on my Kindle TBR because there are a lot of books by the author that are like Amazon Classics editions that they are for free on Amazon. So I have those books on my Kindle TBR. But David Copperfield is also one that I'm curious about because there is the other book, Demon Copperhead, which is kind of a retelling of David Copperfield, and I'm curious about that book. So I thought maybe it would be a good idea to read David Copperfield first. And again, this book was also on the same sale that I saw Consider Me. This book I think was also like a flash sale, like 80% off, so I decided to get it and I want to read it soon because I want to read Demon Copperhead. So these are all the physical books that I got recently. Let's count, because I actually didn't count how many books I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 physical books that I got, and now I need to read them at my ever-growing physical TBR. Hello, it's Carol from Many a Time Later, because I've been filming, turns out I've been filming this doing book stuff for quite some time, but I just got a delivery of a book. By the way, please ignore my hair, we are not going to talk about, but I just got a delivery from Amazon and I know exactly what it is because I just bought one book recently. And it is a pre-order, so let's open up the pre-order. So the scissors, let's open this pre-order. It's definitely the pre-order, not only because it's the only book that I got, but a paper inside the box just slipped out saying it's my pre-order, so... Open? Yes. Probably the least environmentally conscious book to get because it was shipped from another country, but I really wanted this book. I had no idea I wanted to read this book so much until I saw it. I decided to pre-order it, which is something I don't do. But I got And Now Back to You by P.K. Barrison. This is the second book in the Heartstrings series. I don't know how many books will be in series. This is the latest book that just came out. This is the sequel to First Time Caller, and I read First Time Caller for a video last year, and in that video I talk about how I didn't really love that book, but I was really excited to read this one because of the premise. I talk about in that video how I really wanted to read this book because the premise sounded really interesting. This follows Jackson and Delilah. Jackson is the weatherman at the radio station, Delilah is the weatherwoman at the TV station next door, and he seems to have some sort of... there are some things that he doesn't really like about her, and he's very like awkward, and I was really curious about this book because the reason why I didn't like First Time Caller was because of the male main character, and everything else about that book I really enjoyed, but I was curious. So I ended up pre-ordering And Now Back to You. I was thinking about getting the Kindle because I got First Time Caller on my Kindle, but when I saw the price of the Kindle and the price of the paperback, you know, it's practically the same price. So I got the paperback. And it's also floppy because it's the American paperbacks, and I usually get the British paperbacks, which are more stiff. So, yes, the pre-order from And Now Back to You by P.K. Barrison literally just arrived. Hello, so I recently came back today from the bookstore because I had some bookstore points, credits to spend, because honestly you might be looking at me thinking, Carol, this is crazy, I have a giant physical TBR, why would you need to scan more books? But basically I had some store credit I needed to spend, otherwise it would go to waste. So I ended up getting 2 books at the bookstore. I went today. I got some clips on the bookstore, but honestly it was packed. It was full of people because I'm filming this on a pre-carnival weekend. So it was a weekend, also it's pre-carnival, which means that everyone that is avoiding carnival was there. A lot of people that were avoiding carnival were at the mall, were at the bookstore as well, and there was a mixture of people that were avoiding carnival and were dressed normally, and people that were coming back from carnival and were just with feathers or full of glitter, or kids dressed as Elsa. There was a lot of glitter on the floor, to be honest. But I got a few books. I spent some time there looking through the shelves because there are a variety of books that I'm either curious about or books that I already have, because I have such a giant TBR and I want to find something that I knew I'm really excited to read. So I could add to my TBR, but hopefully they won't stay that long on my TBR. So I ended up getting 2 books with the credits. Ended up being 2 blue books. But the first one I got was Fake Skating, or I got the Portuguese translation, which is called Paginando no Amor, which is one of the newest releases by Lynn Painter, and this is one of her YA romances, and it's also a hockey romance. I think it's a fake dating, friends to lovers kind of situation, but I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter before, and I really enjoyed it. And I also read other books by the author before, and I really enjoyed it, and I have been curious about this book ever since it came out. I wasn't planning on getting it right now because I have other books. I think I have 3 other books by Lynn Painter on my TBR currently, and also I have other romances on my TBR currently, but because I had a star credit, I decided to pick this one up and give it a try, add it to my TBR. Hopefully I will read it soon because I'm very curious about it. And then the other one I got, it's actually a new release. I usually don't get new releases because they are more expensive, but it's the translation. It's the translated version of a book I've been curious about for quite some time now, but I look at it and then I put it back on the shelf, I look at it and then I never buy it, and then it was recently translated. I saw the cover. The cover is quite different from the original cover, but I'm going to be honest, not that the original cover is ugly, but I think the Brazilian cover is prettier. I like the color scheme a little bit better. And it is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. This is, I think, literary fiction about a man that is kind of obsessed with becoming a martyr of sorts. And I read the first line, not the first line, but the first paragraph of this book. First of all, I'm curious that I think it's interesting that one of the dedications there's a quote by Clarice Lispector at the beginning of the book. Interesting choice. And then I read the first paragraph of the book while I was on the bookstore, and it sounded really interesting, so I ended up getting Martyr again. I really liked this cover. I like this cover more than I like the original yellow cover. But yes, I ended up getting Martyr, excited to read both of these books, and I need to add them to my TBR spreadsheet, because let's add it to the TBR spreadsheet, and basically that's it for the book haul section of this video, hopefully. Okay, so here is basically my TBR spreadsheet, which is where I put all the books that are currently on my TBR, and I have them between which are the physical books. I currently have 189 physical books on my physical TBR, and then I have 175 books on my Kindle and 17 books from Kindle Unlimited borrowed. That's kind of a rough estimation. That's what I believe it is. Sometimes there are some books that fall through Tracker X, and I forgot to put on my TBR or forgot to take out of my TBR. But in general, that's it. So total, I have 380 unread books on my TBR, minus the 2 that I bought today. And then I have kind of separated by genres. I have the books I have the most are classics. I have 110 classics currently on my TBR. I have 77 romance, 51 fantasy, 56 genre fiction, 14 historical fiction, 20 books that are thriller or mystery, 28 sci-fi, and 26 non-fiction books. I'm keeping score of when I got the books, which years I got the books, so I have some books from 2023, 24, 25. The oldest books I have, I think it's 2018. I have 2 books from 2018 still on my TBR. And I'm keeping track of which language the books are, because I do read books in more than one language, so I have mostly books in English, which is 257 books, which is quite a lot. I knew how much books I had in English because I'm keeping the spreadsheet, but when I first made the spreadsheet, I was surprised by how many books in English I have on my TBR. And then I have 113 books in Portuguese, I have 10 books in French, and then I have only 2 books in Italian currently on my TBR. And then I have the TBR section, basically all the names of the books. So let's go to the end of the TBR. And then we are going to add the 2 books that I got today. Hello and welcome to the next segment in the Doing Bookish Stuff video. So in this segment, we are going to be doing some bookshelf reorganizing, because that's something I've been wanting to do for quite some time, because there are some things about this bookshelf. Most of my bookshelf is quite organized because I am a quite organized person in general. I don't like to have things out of place, but I have one part specific, this part specific of my bookshelf that has some books that are not in the right places. But originally, my original plan for this book reorganization section was because there are some things about this bookshelf that is just not working for me, or I was thinking about changing. The main thing was that I was thinking about changing. This is my fantasy niche, because each niche is in general one different genre of books. So here's my fantasy, and right here on the other side is the romance shelf. So because this section is quite dark as it is, and the fantasy books are quite dark, originally I thought about putting the romance books here because they are just so much more brighter, and putting the fantasy books there. But after thinking a little bit, I thought that maybe it's better to keep the fantasy books here and the romance there, just because the first thing I see when I look at my bookshelves or when I walk here to my desk section is usually the romance books, and having them, like having these bright books, I think it's better than having the dark books. But also another thing I was thinking about was just consolidating all my speculative fiction in one single section, because I have some of my sci-fi books, and I was thinking about maybe joining sci-fi with fantasy, just because it's kind of like I'm running out of space, and because this shelf here, all the books, they're just lying down, because this section, they're essentially the same, but originally they are the perfect size for a CD, but I don't have enough CDs to fill those shelves, and also for me it just makes more sense to put books because I have more books to store. But then when I store books, I have the problem where they need to, in order for them to look good, they need to line up perfectly. And it's not always that the books line up perfectly, either because they are from different countries. Depending on which publishing house, the books can have different sizes. So it doesn't always work out. But I need to think a little bit more about how I want to organize these shelves, because, like, for example, I have the Red Rising trilogy, or the Red Rising series, which is one of the reasons why I put it here, because I know it won't look good lying down, because I have books from 2 different countries, there are 2 different sizes, it will look weird. I already have the Southern Witch trilogy, or now the Southern Witch series here, and the books, they don't line up, and now I have the last book in the series, which is a hardcover, also doesn't line up. So I need to figure out what I want to do with the shelves, how I want to organize the shelves. But I don't think I will do it today, because I need to do a little bit more thinking before I start reorganizing them. But we are going to fix this shelf, because some of the books are out of place. Last year, usually I also put it here, it's more like general fiction or books I read recently, and last year I wasn't reading many physical books, so I was just putting every single physical book I was reading I kept mostly putting here, and now we have some books that are out of place, so let's reorganize it. So the first book in this section, we have Cleopatra and Frankenstein, that is supposed to be here, but then we have kind of like a self-helpy book, which it isn't the place for it, but I have 2 sections for non-fiction. One, it's way upper in the bookshelf. You can see it in this camera, but my non-fiction shelf is it's full. I don't have place for it. And then on this bottom non-fiction, I do have place, but none of them will fit the height of the book. And I think it's not offensive. It's a wide book. I have space here, so I think I'm going to keep this non-fiction here for now, just because it wouldn't look nice here. Then we have the Sally Rooney shelf. Let's put Normal People here. Normal People is a little bit more shallow than the other book, so let's try to keep it here. We have Tomorrow, The Virgin Suicides, and then we have Sea of Tranquility, which is technically a sci-fi, and I could put it in my sci-fi shelf, but it's close enough, and I think I will need the space for this book here. I will need some more books here, otherwise it will look weird. It will look too empty, because 2 years ago I moved most of my genre fiction that was here to this upper shelf, which is out of the camera, out of frame. But yes, we have my days at the Murasaki bookshop. I think I'm going to keep it here. We have PD Summers, which I'm going to take out. I'm going to move it to the thriller shelf, which is also it's up in the bookshelf. It's out of frame. We have Night Beach, which is a more literary horror, and this is another reason why I was thinking about doing just a speculative shelf, because I have literary horror. I don't read genre horror, but I do like literary horror, which usually takes a more speculative side, and sometimes it feels weird to have a speculative book next to Anne Patchett. But I think I'm going to keep it here, because also I was thinking about putting the literary horror with like the fantasy, but it also feels weird to put the Cool Prince next to Bunny, because those books, even though they're both speculative, they just don't seem to, they're the same vibe, so it feels weird to put them together. So I need to also think a little bit more about it. Then we have In the Margins by Elena Ferrante. This is one we can move. I think we can fit it here. This is non-fiction. This book, it's kind of dusty. I need to clean it later. But this is technically not non-fiction. This is a collection of short stories. But I just keep it here for this size. So we have In the Margins, and then we have The Project Cameron by the New York Times Magazine. Put a little pizza trinket back. Now, next book in shelf, we have two classics that I read last year. Don't fall. It's kind of funny. My bookshelves are also kind of dusty. I do need to clean them, but I think I'm going to clean when I decide to reorganize it. Then I do a really deep clean. I'll dust it soon, because I do need to clean it, but then I will do a deep clean whenever I reorganize, which hopefully will be soon, because there are some things about this bookshelf that it is mostly working, it isn't all working. But going back to the classics, we have Persuasion, we have La Chute or The Fall by Albert Camus. The Persuasion is by Jane Austen, so we'll put it here with my other Jane Austen books. Okay, before Pride and Prejudice, Between Sex and Sensibility. Mostly because here we have a little Penguin Classics collection, and I don't want to stop it. And then we have The Fall by Albert Camus. I'll put it here for now, but maybe in the future I will probably put it also on top shelf, which is out of frame, which is also classics, and I think I have The Stranger there also. So other books in this, the messy shelf. So I have some notebooks. I have my reading journal, and then I have just some empty notebooks that I'm keeping there. So I'll figure out a better place to put it. And then we have Wayward, which is a book I read recently. I think I'm going to put it here. It's kind of weird to mix the blue, but no, here, because Wayward is just taller, so it makes more sense to be in the corner. And then yeah, I'll put Sea of Tranquility first, and then you can, I think this bookshelf is done. It's kind of empty. Oh, you have the reading journals. The journals go back here until I figure out a better place to put them. We are going to put Stephen King, Billy Summers on the top shelf, on the thriller shelf. Let's pick my stool here. No, it's right in this corner. So I'll pick my stool, and we're going to put this upstairs. So I guess this is it for book reorganization. Reorganizing my bookshelf for now. I thought about maybe doing some reorganization on the romance section, because it's not bad, but it could be better. But I think I'm going to also keep that for a more full bookshelf reorganizing, because it probably will make more sense than to just keep trying to move some books around. There are some things about this bookshelf I need to fix it. Also, maybe I should wait so I can read more of my physical TBR. Then we have more books to reorganize on the red shelf pile. Also, I tried to take a clip from the thriller shelf. I don't know if it ended up good enough, because basically this bookshelf is really tall, which, like, I'm grateful it's really tall, but this bookshelf is really tall. When I need to reach the top shelves, after level 3, I need the stairs, and I'm not in the mood to get out the stairs right now, so we can reach the top shelf. So I did my best with this tool that I keep near, so I can reach my books. So I guess this is it for this section, for reorganizing the bookshelf. Hello, so this is Carol from like many weeks later, ever since the last clip that I filmed for this vlog, which I think was the unboxing for And Now Back to You, because that one was a pre-order, and then the clips before that one was also like, I've been filming this video for way too long. Like, I started I started filming it in February, and now it's April, and for some reason I didn't finish reading, I guess because I never edited it, and then I just kept adding clips to this video. So we need to stop this video right here, because it's getting too long, too much time. Carol, please stop and just edit this video and post it. But one of the things that I talked about in, I think, the first clip, the second section of this video, when I was talking about my reading journal, I was going to say, oh, I'm going to update my reading journal, then I will show you my reading journal. But then I realized my reading journal would be really boring for you if I show you my reading journal, because some people have those beautiful reading journal, which is an art project. There are drawings, there are all sorts of collages and all sorts of interesting stuff. I'm not that person. I tried being that person. It doesn't work for me, but I still want to have a reading journal. So I'm doing reading journal Carol's version, and basically this is my reading journal, which is this slim reading journal. I have a love-hate relationship with this reading journal. I got it in some sort of, I keep forgetting the word in English, but it's kind of like a giveaway at a mall. Like, they were doing some sort of Christmas giveaway. After you spend X amount of money, you will be able to get a voucher which will be given to you randomly, and then with the voucher you get a free gift. In true Carol fashion, I ended up randomly getting the bookstore voucher, and in the little package that I got included this reading journal, and I decided, like, since I got it from a bookstore, I'm going to use it as my reading journal. And I have a love-hate relationship with it, because the quality of the journal is great. Like, this flap here is magnetic, and it keeps the journal closed. It means that, you know, it is always organized and compact. The quality of the paper is like great, it's smooth. If you ever picked up a Moleskine, it's kind of like the same sort of paper. So the quality of the paper is really nice. I have a love-hate relationship with it, because it's just so slim that it is annoying to write on, because it's slim and it is long. So when you're writing it, I don't find it to be very comfortable to writing, because again, just so slim, and sometimes I kind of put off writing the journal, because it's not my favorite experience to write on it. But since I have already started using it as my reading journal last year, I decided, you know what, I'm going to continue using it, especially because now I'm already halfway through the journal. So I'm going to finish using it. Probably I will finish using it this year if I continue on the pace, or maybe even before that. But essentially, what my reading journal looks like inside. My reading journal is not exciting, honey. It's not exciting at all, because my reading journal is essentially reviews of books. I write at the beginning of, I'm going to pick here kind of like the February spread, but I this year I've been basically writing like February, this is the month we are doing the reviews of, and then I put in another color a total book count of all the books, the amount of books that I read, what I consider to be the best book, my favorite book from that month, and then I start writing about the books. I put the title, the author, the genre, and the date I finished reading. I write the synopsis for the book, and then after writing the synopsis, I write a review of the book and my rating about it. And basically every single book that I read, it's like this. It's nothing very exciting in terms like grand drawings or designs. It's just literally Carol. It's me writing my reading journal, writing mini reviews of the books. And also, I'm not going to show you on detail. I showed you one of the reviews, like March I started doing it, but I still haven't finished, so I'm not going to show you. But also I won't show you more in details the reviews because it's truly kind of my brain, and like we are friends, but it's truly just my brain. A lot of the reviews end up being very similar to what I talk about in videos because I am honest to a fault, so when I tell you what I'm thinking about the book, what I thought about this book, you can be sure that I'm being honest about how I felt about the book and how I'm feeling about that book at the time, because I am honest to a fault. I don't know. So my main problem in my personality is that I'm too honest, and basically most of the reviews are what I'm talking on videos. If I talked about the book in a video. And there are times where I make it a little bit shorter because sometimes, like when I don't like a book, I know I have a review here which is literally just no, and that's everything I wrote on the book journal. Like, I hate this book so much, I'm not going to be talking more about it. There are reviews that are like, oh, this book is fine, and that's the whole review. And then there are others that are longer than what I say in videos. They are called more in detail, and these are more like too much of my brain. It's too Carol, with too Carol references and too Carol thoughts, and I'm very honest. There are things that it's very much just Carol brain, and it'll be maybe a little bit too semi to share it on a video. Also, going with this journal is essentially Carol's brain. If anyone ever tries to read my reading journal, they will need to speak multiple languages because my brain works in at least 2 languages all the time, and my reading journal is in multiple different languages. I try to keep some sort of like one language, write the whole journal, like have a very not stable, but like to be very one thing, to follow a very specific mode, the reviews. Like, you will write the review all in Portuguese, only in English, but no, I tried, I can't. There are books that for some reason I only write them down in Portuguese. There are reasons where I will only write them down in English. There are books that I review in French. And why? Because that's how my brain works. My brain works in a minimum of 2 languages the whole time. It has been doing this since I was a child. And in true Carol fashion, so this is what the journal also ends up looking like.